So now let's talk about materialization. So I have two models, sample model 1 and sample model 2. So for sample model 1, you can see the materialized is stable, and for sample model 2, there is no materialization provided. So if you don't have anything, you can always specify the default over here. So by default, a view will be created for this. So now let's run this. So for the first model, we have materialization as stable. So primarily we'll be focusing on three types of materialization: table, view, and incremental. So we will be seeing like how this all the three versions work. So first with table. So whenever it's defined as a table, so whenever you do a dbt run for this model, it creates a table in this. So you can see right now it did not have a table. When we refresh, we can see this table, right? And whenever you have a materialized as table, and the next time it runs, it completely overrides this, right? So next time when you run this again, it will just delete and then create a new table. So for that we have to use, for that if you want an absurd sort of thing, you'll always have to use incremental strategies. We'll be coming to that later. So this is about table. So now if we change this to a view, let's see what happens. So if we change this to a view, and if I'm going to run this sample model 1 now, so it should ideally create a view for me, Postgres. So now if I go here, I did not have any view. So let me refresh this and see if a new view got created. So I'm going to do that. Just give me a minute. Alright, so sample model 1 view has been created over here. So you can see there is a sample model 1 view. So when I run it, I can see the same data. So that's about view and table. And like I said, table will always override. So it will just create a new table and it will drop the previous version of the table. So we should be careful when using that. So next, we are going to talk about incremental strategy. So for that, I will take a different example. So let's start. So now let's talk about incremental strategy. So three things which we have to consider while defining an incremental strategy is materialized. Of course, it's incremental. Then incremental strategy, which I have taken merge in this case. So we can have different incremental strategies like append, delete, insert, override. So we'll come to that later. And a unique key. So based on this, the incremental strategy is decided. So in this example, I've taken a table which has ID, and against each ID there is a venture code. And of course I've defined that unique key for this table is ID, right? So now let's see what happens when we run this for the first time. So again, let's note materialization is incremental. Incremental strategy is merge. So I'm going to run this and then I'll be defining, like I'll be explaining what is the meaning of different incremental strategies. So now let's run sample model 3 and let's see what we get. So it got completed successfully. So in the first run, it should have created a table for me. So let's refresh this and I can see a table, right? So if I'm going to run this, so I can see there are different values for this. So now, suppose if this was a table and I had run it again. So what it would do, it would just override this, right? It will create a new table. But now we're talking about incremental strategy. So now let's do something. So against 4, what I'm going to do, I'll change the venture code. So suppose I'll name the venture code as Mumbai. Okay. So the venture code be Mumbai. Let's save this. So now what it is going to do, let's see. So I'm going to run this and let's see what do we have. So if I run this table again, so against 4 it has updated, right? So now you can also see this from your test runs, right? So you have test runs over here, so you can see exactly what happened, right, during this execution process. So you can see what it did. It tried to merge in this table using this on ID. So whenever it matched, then it tried to update, and when there was no match, then it tried to reinsert. So we did not have anything like that, right? So it was all matching basically, and we had new values. So this is how incremental merge works, right? Then we have different other incremental which you can try, like there is an append, right? So append, it's going to always append new rows at the bottom. So we can try this as well. And then there is delete, insert, and insert override. And like I said, you can always go to this tests and you can see how it has run, right? Target, sorry. So in this you can see the compiled version as well as the run version of it. So generally what we do in production when we push this code, so we always exclude these two folders, right, in our repository, whatever we use. Suppose we are using Git, So we'll add this in git ignore. We don't want the compile and run version to be uploaded. So now let's see what happens in append. So I've changed the strategy as append, and this is my current state of the table. Now I'm going to run this again. So let's run this dbt run sample model 3. Let's see what happens now. So if you go here and run this, see, it just appended at the bottom, right? Even if you change something, it will just append. And generally I'm just running the same thing again and again, but I really will not have the same data, right? So you'll only have those data which is updated, and that will be getting like appended at the bottom. So you can test this around. You can also take sample tables directly, like here I'm creating tables using union all, and that will give you a better picture. So this is about different types of materialization in dbt. So generally you should be using as and when required, right? So based on the requirements. So generally for smaller tables, I always use table. So tables less than 1,000 rows, it's not worth doing an merge thing, right? So we can just use table. For tables of bigger sizes, you can see if it makes sense to use incremental. And views are generally like we take in the first layer, right, of our ELT transformation. So generally we do that in views whenever it's required. So that's all about materialization. Let's jump into the concepts of seeds in the next section. Thank you so much.